One of the recurring themes that kept coming up when we talked to aldermanic candidates was, I guess, frustration with some of the blighted housing in the city. I know you have somebody where you represented.
There isn't any more than what live that's by my house.
Okay.
Period.
Right.
Mean, it's something. Again, we are a nation of laws, and the law says you just can't come in and take somebody's property. You got to go through court. Our biggest stumbling block. Part of it's our legal department isn't the greatest on earth. Mm-hmm. The other part is the circuit judges over here don't want to deal with it. And every time you go over there and somebody comes up and say they need more time, most of the judges over there will give them more time. So hiring 2 more lawyers over here is not going to solve our problems with abandoned housing. Sometimes it takes 6 to 8 months to a year to find out who even owns it. Because we just did a deal, what was it, last Tuesday on a zoning deal. And one of the ladies' names appeared on land, did not own it supposedly no more. But her name still appeared on it. I mean, the blighted areas, Tim Davin's administration did way more than anybody up to that point has ever done. Mike Norris then got the city council to pass. We bought the houses for next to nothing. When the landfill was established, we get like 5,000 tons a year. We bought a big enough track hole to knock the houses down. The ones that, you don't have to worry about hitting that house next door. They've been going through them. Great. And that's all you can do. I mean, you have to go through the process.
Right.
And once you go through the process, we get them down as quick as possible. But hiring 2 lawyers, unless these circuit clerk judges want to streamline it, you still have to go to court. You cannot just foreclose on somebody.
Right.
Because of liens, because there's somebody else out there holding the first mortgage.
But are they still as aggressive as they need to be?
As far as I'm concerned, yeah. I mean, we go out every day and write it. The lady is just down the end of my block is where the guy got shot and killed. Mm-hmm. The lady's porch was knocked off. The car was partially inside the house. Within 2 days after that happened, the city of Springfield gave her 30 days to get it fixed so we don't start finding her. Now, here's the lady who's trying to deal with the insurance company, doesn't know what she's doing. But that's how quick the notices are sent out. Mm-hmm. Again, you have a set of rules that you have to go by. And you can go into hearing court, and you can't get blood out of a tournament. It's just like parking fees. Some of these people ain't got the money. And there for a long time, there was dead people on Jimmy Langfelder's list as owing this money. The list has never been purged. So before you start doing this, you at least should have an accurate list. And we didn't even have that. But everybody has to understand that you just cannot take away land from people in America. And it's something you have to live with.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, there are cases. I mean, we're running every Sunday. We have a feature there, and a lot of these properties have been ongoing problems for 6 and 7 years.
There was a house.
They're not getting better. So, I mean, it's not like we're just trying to snatch land away, but it also.
But again, it just went through the process. It isn't like somebody hasn't tried to do something. Mm-hmm. There was a lady by our house burned 15 years ago in Burton Lake.
I wrote a story about that.
Yeah. And we finally tore it down, and part of the community got mad at us when we tore it down. She got took by the first person, insurance-wise, and she could never recoup from it. The yard was kept immaculate, and she had it was a garden, but the house was boarded up. And finally, we did give her, and again, she'd go to court and she'd get an extension. And the city can't override a court. And finally, we got it to the point where she wouldn't cooperate with anybody. We tore it down and had people. Negative calls about that. The other thing is, and I live on the east side, and I've lived there 36 years, proud of it. But we got people who just don't want to take care of their homes. And it isn't just the landlords. I mean, even a landlord, we got people who have garbage service and would rather pile their garbage in the backyard than put it in the garbage can and take it out. You can't, I mean, that's a societal problem. That's not something that the city of Springfield can do. And I can take you places where you guys wouldn't imagine house after house is in worse shape than the ones you put in the paper.
Do that.
Anytime you guys want to see a real part of Springfield, I'll be ready to take anybody.
Okay.
I told Karen and Sarah that one time. Because, I mean, I know that some of the candidates have went into the black churches and stuff. But a lot of the black clergymen don't live on the east side. Mm-hmm. They have their nice churches there, but they won't live there. Mm-hmm. And I have a real problem when people talk about the east side and their idea of the east side is driving down Clear Lake, Cook, or South Grand as quick as they can. There's places over by Pillsbury that just blow their mind. There's places over on East Adams. I mean, it's but I do some. There's places in Westchester getting back because people bought into a house they can't afford to keep up. It is the economy today. People go so far into debt they can't fix a gutter. So if they don't fix a gutter, the next door neighbor might not do something. And
it's not a very sunny reality that you painted for us. We're going to lose these jobs whether we want them to or not.
Well, you know what?
We're not going to fix the east side.
The one thing about me is I can fix a furnace and air conditioner. I can. Problem with government is too many times we stick our head in the sand and just don't want to deal with reality. I think we've come to a crossroads in Springfield. We better deal with reality or we'll end up like the state or the federal. And a city cannot afford to end up that way. You go up to Peoria, I was just up there, we've cashed in all our scrap copper, and look at the abandoned buildings and everything up there. I mean, Caterpillar, in 1966, when my brother moved up there to work, there was almost 30,000 people just in their local union. Now it's down to 7. The reality is, unless the federal government decides we're going to manufacture something in this country, we're going to keep going down the drain. And right now, the latest rumor is that Quinn and them are going to cut back on our MFT and tax money. Across the board, they want to cut it all 5% of what we get. It's going to be another nail. So you have to, at some point in time, on that 3rd floor, sit up there and say something other than I'm going to bring jobs to Springfield or I'm going to do this. Because the reality is they're not going to bring jobs to Springfield. Shields come here because the legacy point people have enough political pull to get a special taxing district, which means they don't have to pay for any of the infrastructure. They bonded the money. When you go buy a basketball at Shields, it's going to cost you 1% more than you ever go to Dick's, and that 1% goes to these developers. So I'd be willing to bet they probably give that land to Shields for next to nothing because they knew they didn't have to worry about it because their infrastructure is all going to be paid for tax money. I was brought up in the country, we all pay our taxes, throw it in a pool, and we take care of everybody. These downtown TIFs and all this is, I want to use my tax money just for my purpose, and I don't believe in it. My philosophy is we still all should throw our tax money into a pool and use it for the best of everybody. But a TIF district, the whole basic premise of a TIF district is I get to keep my tax money and only use it for my little part of town. And I think one of the candidates said something about one of the forums after the downtown TIF re-up. First off, I don't think you can do that. I had a customer who worked for the state when they first brought about TIF district. Once it's been in a TIF district, I don't think, after 35 years, I don't think you can even start all over with a new EAV. I'm having somebody look it up to make sure. But
what about a McCarthy TIF?
If you're going to have a McCarthy TIF, you should never give the tax break to the cornfield. Right. You cannot keep doing this and then crying that you hurt the old part of Springfield because it doesn't make sense. And again, I don't know how much Farmer or any of them really want to talk to Dave James. I don't know who owns the old venture store, but I know Dave James owned the bowling. I don't know what they've ever talked with you guys realistically. A lot of the people I know that develop subdivisions and stuff in Springfield, they don't ever come ask the city for nothing. Joe Carter started the North End behind Kingpin. He never once come to us and asked us for anything. Because he was a true developer. He was willing to risk his own money without our intervention and our strings attached to it. And he did very well out there. So that's why I was against the TIF across the street. And that was, again, a group of politically connected people. Andy Baminger, Cagnoni, all of them. You go through the list of donors to people, you're going to see these guys' names show up. Centennial Park was basically brought in with Corky Joyner pulling strings to get a pumping station from the sanitation district, which the sanitation district is 100% political. There is an elected official on that board. They're all appointed by the political people. That's how they raised they raised their rates 400% and nobody knew about it until I yelled at Chris.
He was the one who
you open a can of worms there.
That was a long bunch of meetings with those people in this room, too.
Oh, and it was a fluke. I still read the classified ads, and we were getting our butts chewed for an 80% water rate increase, and they were going 400 something. Nobody said a word. So I yelled at Chris. He was covering us.
And they lost their insurance, too.
Oh, they lost more than that. Some of those guys don't talk to me no more.
But getting back to MacArthur then, so are you, I mean, because we've had a few people who've said, at least one of the Ward 7 candidates said that that'd be That'd be a TIF district there.
But he doesn't know how a TIF works. First off, you got to declare it a blighted area. There's one blighted building. There's one blighted section. Now, you can get these things to say anything you want, because they did the one on my side of town that was purely political. There's no way you can put anything else blighted other than the bowling alley and the old Venture Store. You can't go west of there, you can't go east of there, you can't go north of there, you can't go south of there. Find any buildings in disrepair. You got Prairie Farm sitting there with a manufacturing plant that they wanted to expand just to move their trucks a little more. Of course, the political powers be said no. The Dakota group did their deal. Well, we want to put all the parking in back. Drive down most of that alley. You can't put the parking in back. Let's be again. Let's have a realistic study. That's all I ask. Just let's. When I go back to my business. I got to give a customer a realistic attitude here. It's going to cost you this much. Fix the furnace. It's going to last you this long. Or do you want to spend this much money? You're probably really not going to save anything. If they want to go to the best, then they'll save money. On McCarthy, you doomed it when you allowed them to build, give all that tax rates to South of Wabash. Again, you're going to have to work with the owners of the land and try to find. I do not believe in the next 2 years you'll see the economy good enough. From watching the market, from watching realtors, I just don't see where you're going to do it. And the city of Springfield definitely don't have the money. And if you make it a TIF district, there'll be no money in it probably for the first 5 years because there is no new building. I mean, at least with our TIF, the Far East, with Pepsi building, they're going to build a $5 million building, which is going to almost all that property tax on that building will go into the TIF. So we'll actually end up having some money. Let's see, when did they do? And I lived there, but at one point in time, they lowered the value of my house so much they took away part of my homestead exemption. And that's why that TIF district out there was designed for the guy who used to own TKI, talked Ozzie into doing it, and he was going to build a new factory, and they're going to build the little factory houses around it. He sold his company in New York and walked away from everything.
What was TKI?
They made the instant sugar and stuff.
Okay.
That sugar substitute. It's out there on South Grand. The buildings are still there. It's there by just east of Noodle Products.
Yeah. Okay.
Guy's name was Rick Makio or something like that. He still lives in Springfield. But that was a totally, because we tried to stop it. And it was just a total political deal. And then the first 3 houses in Eastdale subdivision were little bitty houses that people would have bought that would have worked in a factory. Well, then it all fell apart. And once Cub got a deal from the TIF that they were subsidized so much money, and once that subsidy ran out, they left. Now it turned out for the best for Sangamon County because they got a heck of a building, but it also just went off the tax roll, so it no longer puts anything into the TIF district.
So I'd made that argument about the McCarthy TIF in some blog entry or when I was still on the editorial page, and people jumped down my throat. I mean, residents who live there seem to think that they need it. Do you think they actually need it to actually do anything?
Well, to keep their standard the way they want it, yeah. I mean, I could say the same thing about my side of town.
Yeah.
We didn't need a lot of things over there that we got.
Yeah.
And realistically, if they think that much, then they should all pull their money. If it's such a great investment, pull your money, start a LLC, invest your money, buy the buildings if you think you can make it work. The only reason they can think it make it work is because it'll be not their money. It's the same deal that we just passed for these 44 homeless apartments. If there was only that investor's money in it, it would have never went. It's IDA money. It's the Illinois Housing Development Authority. And the way they make their money is you will get money from them as tax credits that you'll sell to rich people so they don't have to pay as much taxes. They'll make more money off of that than they will rent the apartments. It's the way it has always worked. And then you have a firm out of Chicago that's going to run it through somebody helping hands. They took them up Peoria and showed them a real nice thing in downtown Peoria. It wasn't in a residential. And they had a 1-strike clause. Helping Hands doesn't have a 1-strike clause. They have a 3-strike clause. There's a great little one on Cook Street. They took the old hotel and made it into it. But they sold that one as a bill of goods, 5th Street Renaissance. That was only going to be for homeless veterans. In midstream, they changed that. I've been around this long enough to watch some of the greatest con artists coming from this IDA money come to Springfield and try to put up stuff that was not in the best interest of the neighborhood. 44 apartments, if you drive out there, I can't even envision how they can squeeze it all out of you. And it just doesn't fit the neighborhood where we have constant shootings, drug dealings. I mean, that's the kid that got shot in front of my house. Guarantee you it wasn't a random shooting. I've had another house that had 6 bullet holes one night. Of course, the police told me, oh, that wasn't by your house, right? I was, yeah, I've lived here long enough to know when the bullets are flying. And when Bill Sweeney used to own Evergreen Terrace, there was 200 cops in there one night with 2 helicopters. And he was the perfect example. He didn't care what went on. New Frontiers got their money. He didn't care. So when he sold it to the people who own it now, they showed him 3 or 4 apartments that hadn't been lived in and told him how it were like that. Now, I have to give credit. The people that run Poplar Place, they send guys up from one end of 25th Street all the way down to Cook and pick up every piece of trash. They kick people out, and now they're starting to convert some of the building to single family instead of duplexes to drop the density. They've been very, very good neighbors compared to when somebody here in Springfield owned it.
So, okay, there's like a thread through all of this where you are angry about some of the insider deals, the status quo, right?
I just don't play the game.
Okay, but how do you? I mean, you're one person. If you're elected mayor, how are you going to be able to change all that?
Most of that will never make it to city council if the mayor doesn't go along with it. That's the other thing I've learned in 12 years.
Okay.
I mean, one of the things before I was on city council, when it come to IDA money, only the mayor had to approve it. We got that changed to where the city council has to at least approve it. And without the approval of the city council and mayor, IDA usually will never loan the money out. I don't do from day one, I've had people want to meet me in private. I say, no, you come to city council, we'll do it all on public. If I lose, I lose. And I don't think you've ever seen me try to, I can lose a vote, but I never try and change it after that. I'll live with it. I voted, once the TIF district has been assigned, I voted for every amount of money ever used in the TIF district. Because that's what it's there for. Once the money's there, you've got to spend it. Now, what I do begrudge downtown is that we kept a lot of city water, light, and power guys working by doing all the lights. That didn't add nothing to it. I mean, it made downtown look prettier. Didn't bring any more businesses. Some of that money should have been used to subsidize a store downtown, like they did out on the east end, but never did come to pass because I don't think anybody had enough connections inside that wanted to put a store in, to be very truthful. Todd and them kept a lot of the linemen working downtown, changing those lights out so they didn't have to lay them off. That's all that was. That same way when, no offense meant to Steve Combs and them out in Ennis. They were all used. It looks pretty. The main goal was to keep CWLP workers working. Now, as an alderman, there's nothing you can do about that. As a mayor, there's a ton of things you can do. You do not need the aldermen because you can just say no to it.
So the lights don't get changed.
Huh?
So the lights don't get changed.
If they hadn't, if it hadn't been at a point when Todd and them were up against the wall when they tried to lay some off, I probably would never say nothing. But it was strictly a payoff to keep some of these guys working. I don't think it did the least bit of good, and no offense meant to Enos Park to change the lights. When you've been better off buying the buildings that are boarded up and tearing them down with the TIF money than you were putting in the lights.
You're saying those decorative
Right.
black lamps instead of what we did have.
Right.
Okay.
And you know,
He's not talking about changing light bulbs. He's talking about actually physically removing.
I think he did that. You know, it's the only place they didn't do it was around Saputo's. I'm serious. If you look, it's never been done.
Why is that?
Have you met the coffees?
Why?
Well, take my word, seniors even worse.
One of our big things, obviously, is we're big into open government and openness and open records and all that. And when Tim Davlin first came in, it was all going to be great and everything was going to be open. And it seems like within a month or two of his arrival, we couldn't get building permits. We got things redacted.
That's because who he hired for a lawyer. She will not be my lawyer.
What's your basic? I mean,
I've never had that. I'm the one guy to come in here after the first meeting I attended in the executive session and told the editorial board exactly what went on. I don't believe in that. I tried to get them to open up the minutes the other day, and nobody else would go along with it, so I just walked out of the room. I mean, not all of them, because things are said in executive session, the aldermen like to run their mouths, and they want to keep it secret. We, right before the state changed it, we did get through that we were going to record everything, and because my first term, it was horrible what went on. And the minutes were kept inside executive session was we discussed that, and that was the end of it. I mean, you couldn't have found out what went on in the executive session because Bob Rogers kept absolutely no record of what was said. So the first 4 years was horrible.
Will you even have I almost can't imagine a Kunz administration even bothering with
You
executive
have
session.
to if you're going to talk about a personnel deal. Or, yeah, I wanted to let loose with everything about the Ricky Davis trial and settlements, and Jennifer come up with this BS saying, well, this could hurt future lawsuits because they'll know what we're planning. Well, you're not going to have the same mayor. You're not going to have the same aldermen. So it's not going to hurt nothing, other than I think sometimes they don't want. It was more to protect what people said in there. And usually it was more to protect the mayor. I mean, my first 4 years was horrible as what went on in executive session. That's what I was told one night, you get 6 votes, you can do whatever you want. And that was the attitude amongst that crew of aldermen. So I've never been. I mean, I don't hold private meetings just for that. Because it's a deal where if you don't have somebody else present, it's whatever you want to remember you heard. So I've always avoided. One time somebody come with an IDA project. I said, yeah, we can have a meeting. I don't know who was covering us, but I said, well, we're going to invite this, and that. No, never mind. They didn't want to. Because they don't want any question. They are lobbyists is all they are. They only want to tell you the one side they want you to hear. So no, you would have no problems with me. Now, there are certain things I guess we might end up having to go to court over to see if the unions are right or if the management's right. I mean, I think some of the stuff that we keep secret as far as punishment's wrong. They keep telling us that's the law. I guess I'd have to decide as mayor if I want to see what the law really says, because until somebody in a black robe tells you what the law is. That was Bob Rogers' other famous saying, we can pass whatever we want. Until somebody takes us to court, it's law.
Well,
What about like police reports? Right now we can get the cover sheet. Can we get the whole police report on Mayor Kunz?
As far as I'm concerned, you can have anything you want. It's the public's knowledge. I just, at some point in time, I'll have to go to court to see what is, what, I mean, it's everything in that building over there, and that building or any government building's ours, as far as I'm concerned. Now,
I'm sorry. I was
going to say, on the point thing on CWLP, I don't know if that would have served any purpose other than embarrassing people.
Well,
they got the maximum punishment.
Let me touch on CWLP, though. I mean, we had a case where, about a year and a half ago, you had the noose incident.
All right. I'll be more than happy to address that.
Okay, well, it's not specifically about that.
No, I'll be more than happy to address that.
Okay. You also had 50-some-odd people who were viewing porn, and apparently this has been going on for quite some time. It's just they found out about it when the computer locked up. Okay. You're saying you don't necessarily need to have a general manager. You can do it with people that are in existence. What do you do to fix things? Because, I mean, from the outside looking in, it certainly appears that things are a little loosey-goosey over there.
Well, I can guarantee you it's everywhere. I watched a guy over in Public Works got 3 computer screens playing solitaire on one. The bosses don't want to do their job either, because they don't want to go through the hassle of writing somebody up and then have them stuck up their butt by the union. Because in all truthfulness, what has happened in the 12 years I've been in, every administration has picked and choose who they wanted to discipline. You can't do that with a union contract. You discipline your friends, your enemies, and everybody the same. That is not the way it works over there. That's why they all go ask for the support of the firefighters or whatever, and I don't. I've never got nobody a job, and I never will. And in my administration, you'll never know who until the interview happens. When you look at the resume, there'll be no name or anything on it. You'll look at the qualifications at it. As far as the news incident, it took that guy 2.5 hours to see that news. It was not any more meant for him to man the moon. The guy was a political hiree. He didn't like the job he had. He alienated everybody. And he took off, called in sick a day, and got caught on TV, which is strictly against the rules. He got reprimanded, and he was looking for an excuse. They're all a bunch of babies in that area anyway. They're all political appointees. That's what you have to stop from the very beginning. But I can guarantee you from running for mayor, unless you're out there on the side promising these people all these jobs, you're not going to get very many volunteers to go out and put up signs and stuff. There's been 3 incidents since I've been in office. The first one was Renata Frazier. They absolutely lied about her. Me, Frank McNeil, and Roderick Nunn called a special meeting that embarrassed Karen and really blew it all apart. The other 2 was Ricky Davis. Our lawyers go in and bring chocolate donuts and white donuts in for a show and tell about policemen. Our lawyers lost that case. Ricky Davis no more should have got anything to man the moon. And Mike Williams was nothing but a political person too. And when he didn't get his way, he got lucky. It took him 2.5 hours to see that. new stuff. It was nowhere near as fast. It was hanging on. Now, to me, all that stuff should have been made public. That would be the difference between me and it. And you know the guy wasn't serious about when he took a payout of $200-some thousand, and he has a $60-some thousand a year job where he didn't do much management. All he wanted was out.
So is that a group that needs to be eliminated as part of our
You
process?
can't eliminate what they do. You could hire off the basis of somebody being a good employee rather than somebody in a political favor. Because I think I think it's the same department, I'm not 100% sure on it, but I think 2 of the people we got rid of were zone managers that were political appointees. They moved over there. No, that is what's wrong. There are certain areas at CWLP, there are certain areas over here that you can hire whoever you want. That's what needs to be put to an end. And no offense meant, there are people out there putting up signs and stuff, running their mouths for certain candidates what jobs they're going to get after that candidate wins.
When you mention Ricky Davis, that goes naturally into the whole issue of minority recruiting in the police department and the fire departments. If you're mayor, do you see that as something that needs to be addressed, and how would you address
The
it?
firemen, I'm not as concerned. All those people care is if you're willing to run into a fire. So let's just take the best. And we've done the banding, which is a lot. And you could go to a pass-fail system. I don't have a problem with that. Unfortunately, that's why you can't have the residency rule, because too many of your eligible young minority people already have a record or something. And once you get to 21, I guess what I like to envision is some sort of like apprenticeship program. We can get kids right out of high school before they get in trouble. But then again, that's when you have to go up against the unions and stuff. There's things I know. I mean, there's been people who suggest for a job and they want to go take their drug test because they know they can't pass it. So the minority, anybody with a good education and stuff don't want to come to work for the city of Springfield anyway because it's usually a dead-end job. I mean, I'm just being blunt because you're just caught. And that's why I'm against the residency. The residency rule, the other thing was that they use that for political workers. I mean, that's how a lot of these people, I mean, if we're going to open our doors and try and get more minorities, then it's got to be, we'll be able to draw them from anywhere and let them live wherever they want, or we're never going to get that many.
But do you think, would you change the way that they do the hiring now in the police department? Would you?
I guess the only thing I might go try to change instead of have the banding is just pass-fail. A lot of cities just have a pass-fail. You had that probationary period. And there again, in Renata's case, if they'd have done what the people at the state police told her to do, she would have never been a policeman. But Karen never paid politics. Karen was more worried about having a minority than having a good police department. You can't do that. You've got to have a good police department. I live on the east side. For all people want to say, yeah, we have some smart-ass white cops, but for the most part, they treat everybody pretty well over there. Young people they pick on no matter where it is. I've lived there for 30. When I moved there, it was mostly white. Now it's almost all black. We do not have the problems that everybody envisions when you talk about race relations and stuff. The 3 of the biggest race relation things since I've been an alderman, only one of them had to do with probably the lady being black. The other 2 people were just political. Ricky Davis stepped on every toe there was to step on. He was belligerent. He was a horrible cop. And you'll find a lot of rank and file minorities on the east side will 100% agree with him. Same way with Mike Williams. Mike Williams had a political agenda. He was part of the $1 Million Man deal. His family had a political agenda. They ran people against the existing precinct committeemen. He wanted to be a political. The guy was a convicted felon. He only got a break because of politics. Nobody else in his position would have ever even been given that job. And then he cried rights when it fit his. That's why you never seen me say a word about it. Because I knew from the beginning it was not racially motivated.
You think Springfield has any greater race problems, less race problems than other cities?
No, I'm not. I know there's areas of Springfield where they don't want blacks to move. That's everywhere. I mean, when we're done with this census, when it comes out from 2002, the city of Springfield is more integrated than it will ever be in its history.
It's because a lot of the growth has been coming from minority families moving in.
Integrated. But it's not on the east side no more. You will have, this city council will have to draw a new ward map. The 3 minority precincts where I live will have to go into Ward 2 to follow the consent decree and have a minority ward. the map will have to change drastically. Because if you look at the number of minorities that live in Northgate, and the number, when you tore the Hayes homes down, the numbers that went to Seven Pines, MacArthur, those are the people who screamed the most. The people who never had no crime. It was all carried over to the east side. As soon as we tore down the Hayes home, as soon as we started moving, it's a lot easier to take care of crime a little at a time than it is to have all in one section of town you just forget about. In the late 80s and early 90s, that's where I lived. They could have cared less what went on over there. It's one of the reasons why I ran for alderman. When Cellini owned Evergreen Terrace, our alderman would never return our calls from our precinct. He didn't care. It didn't cost him no votes. So, I mean, it's very... Now, the police like to have everything in one area because it just makes their job a little easier. They don't have to worry about it. But the people who raise the most stink about this stuff, and yes, it's a minor role. A lot of people who gripe about race relations make their money's off of making sure race relations sound bad. I live on the east side. We all get along. Black, white, whatever the color, we all get along. We do not fight with each other or anything else. But some of the people I've seen come up to run their mouth at city council and want to gripe about it, they have a vested interest with their job as an advocate or something to make sure that any little thing that goes wrong, they have to say something about it. And in the long run, it hurts all of Springfield.
What's your path to victory? You finished fourth.
I need about 20,000 people to just come out and vote for me. When I started as alderman, my goal was not to compromise my beliefs. Walk in, I'll walk out the same way I walked in. When I told Tim Davin I was going to run against him, I just want to give people a choice. You want something open and honest, and you really want to hear the truth, then vote for me, because that's the only thing I got to run on. Because I will never... I'm a realist, and a lot of people I found don't want realism. They'd rather be told, well, we'll bring you all this.
And that is true, but there is also, with the office of mayor, there are, some ceremonial things. You are sort of the ambassador for the city. Do you see yourself embracing those kind of things too? Or is that
That's
going to
why
be
you
a
have an
problem for you?
assistant. That's why you have an executive assistant. Some of them I can do. Some of them, yeah, I'm rough around the edges, but I can be nice if I have to be. But I don't think that's going to fix our problem in Springfield. I don't think us having a sister city in Russia and Japan is going to fix our problems. I truly believe the time is getting short. You better fix the problems in Springfield while they're fixable. Or you could end up, you're never going to end up like some cities because we got state government here. But the other thing that kills us in this town is our biggest employers don't pay a nickel of tax. Everyone compares to Peoria, Bloomington, whatever. They have big corporations that pay huge amount of tax. The state government, the federal government, the county, the schools, the post office, the hospitals, a lot of them don't pay us a penny in taxes. Or they don't pay anywhere what they would if they were a private. And then Horace Mann contributes like $400,000 a year to the downtown tip. That's another thing. That's why TIP's bottom. We need the money to be put back. In 2016, you'll have $400,000. It'll probably be $500,000 by then from the TIF that can be put back in the corporate fund. 2013, corporate fund gets another $600,000 from Karen Hasser's bizarre little early retirement that cost us $18 million. And of that, $600,000 a year comes from the corporate side. So right there, you got over $1 million of revenue you're going to have without raising a penny of taxes, which we can get everything back in the right order. Because at some point in time, electricity is going to go up. We're going to make more money off CWIP to give to corporate. But what scares me is you're going to go right back when the economy gets better doing the same old stuff. We'll just keep handing out raises. We'll keep giving you easier work rules. And we'll do the fluff stuff. This Capitol, if you go down there and talk to the guys on Norman Andes and head west, it's killing their business what they did at Capitol Street. And I don't think UP will ever fix that railroad trestle down there. And even if this study goes through, it'll be 10 years at the very earliest where you can do what you want to do to Springfield and move all those tracks out here. It's never going to be done quickly because you're going to have people on North End fight you in court on eminent domain. And I'm not sure if they can even lose because it's really not a government, it's a privately held railroad. In order to merge these tracks, you have to devastate part of the North End of Springfield. And that's one thing that griped me when they first come out this and showed you the big pictures up against Israel housing. Why don't they go out north and show you the overpass? If they do one version, we'll start almost at the Dairy Queen on 19th and almost go down to Lanphier Park to get over all the tracks that will be going through there. Now, their latest version is you'd have to tear down the Samuel building. That's still owned by New Frontiers, which I'm sure that wouldn't upset Bill Sweeney because he'd get all the money he could out of it.
Well, we asked you for an hour. We're going over an hour.
I don't have to be nowhere
Anybody
to
else?
free.
After what you just said, I need a beer.
I am not. Yeah, I am a pessimist, I guess. But after 12 years sitting up there, seeing everybody was going to do this, and none of it ever come true. Why not deal with realism? And I guess that's what I try to tell people.
Well, let me ask you if there is any sunshine. That would be my
Yeah, I think the economy will get better. I think the price of electricity will go up. We will have more money, and we will have more money just from the two things I talked about. I think you can trim more audits.
How do we make sure that it doesn't go to increase raises or increasing?
Elect me. I don't know. There is no guarantees. But I have watched the same people 3 times. I've ran 4 times as an alderman. Lost my first one by 18 votes. Karen won then, made all these promises about jobs and stuff, it never happened. Tim made the same promises, it's never happened. That's all these 3 of them want to do, is make the same promise. And I truly believe 4 years from now, if it's not me, there'll be less people working in Springfield than there is now. Because I just don't, the state's never going to hire. You guys have cut back. I mean, it's just reality. It's just what's out in the world right now. Until it starts at the federal level, bringing jobs back to America. We all can't be service people. We all can't, fix each other's furnaces and appliances. So at some point in time, we've got to build something. But in the meantime, I think everybody's got a lot of hard decisions. I think it does no good to sit around and say, I'm going to bring jobs or I'm going to do this. Why not be realistic? It didn't do me any good, but...
Maybe you should run for senator.
Hell, I don't tell nobody how... Yeah, all they want to do is tell people how to live. They don't want to actually... Look at the state. When was the last time they actually tried to solve a problem?
Well, I meant U.S. senator.
That would even be worse. I don't think I'd fit in with those other 99. I'd be like, what's the show with Jimmy Stewart? Mr. Smith goes to work. I could probably talk that long, but I don't think they...
Well, is there anything we didn't ask you about? Anything else you want to bring up? Okay.
Just if you guys can figure out how to get more people to vote, that's what we need.
We always try.
No, I know that. And that's why I don't mind talking to you, and that's why I'll do one tomorrow night. Just like the Citizen Club that they ragged on me about. The first question Pour My Coffee got was, how many more bicycle paths are bringing to Springfield? Yeah, to some people, a small minority, that's a big issue. But if you're doing a forum for the city of Springfield, we're going through this budget process and said everything was horrible, how can you ask that question? It doesn't make sense. That guy got all mad at me. And again, I guarantee you from that Citizens Club or whatever it's called, you won't find too many people from the north end and the east end that actually sit on that deal. Because even Rudy Davenport moved off the east end of Springfield because he didn't want to bring his grandkids up there. So, I mean, it's one of those deals, having lived where I've lived and watched everybody. That's why I always give Frank McNeil credit. He never left. He stayed right in the middle. That's where I stayed. And as long as some good people stay, you got a chance to rebuild. And you come down Manor Drive in Livingston and East Lawrence and Mike Court where we live. Most of the houses are owned. You'll see Christmas lights up. We have the random people chasing each other down the street, shooting each other, but they usually don't live there. But I like it because it's a taste of the real world. I live there by choice, not because I have to. Just so everybody knows that. I also don't like having. I like not having a house payment and very low taxes.
Yeah.
It gives me more time to spend my money where I want.